You ever think about how our biggest weaknesses, those moments where we feel we've hit rock bottom, could actually be the source of our greatest strength? Well, today we're diving into this incredible, timeless story about two leaders. One's in a palace, the other's hiding in a cave, and the contrast between them reveals something really surprising about power, influence, and what it actually takes to lead. Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to follow a celebrated hero's dramatic fall from grace. Then we'll see who shows up to join him in the dark. We'll contrast all that with a paranoid king losing his grip, which will lead us straight to this powerful idea our source material calls the wounded healer, and, what it might mean for us. So let's kick things off with a guy named David from a famous story in the Hebrew Bible. But this isn't David the great king, not yet. This is David the fugitive. He's a national hero who has lost literally everything. The king he served has declared him an enemy of the state, and now he is running for his life. I mean, just look at this journey. It's not a slow decline. It is a straight-up nosedive, from the very center of power to the absolute edge of society. He's so desperate that after getting a little help from some priests, he does the unthinkable. He runs straight into the heart of enemy territory. And to really get how desperate he was, you have to understand this one detail. Gath was the hometown of Goliath. Yeah, that Goliath, the giant warrior David famously killed. So him fleeing there? That's kind of like a celebrated war hero trying to hide out in the enemy's capital city. And to stay alive, he literally has to pretend he's insane. And this quote, wow, it just captures his absolute rock bottom. This is the official record of his total humiliation. The giant slayer, the national hero, is now just a public spectacle, drooling and scratching on the walls so the enemy king won't see him as a threat and kill him. His reputation is completely destroyed. Okay, so after he escapes Gath, he hides out in this dark, isolated place called the Cave of Adullam. And it's right here in this moment of total failure, total isolation, that something really incredible and completely unexpected starts to happen. So first, his family shows up, also on the run from the king. But then word gets out that David is hiding in this cave. And the people who come looking for him, they aren't the rich or the powerful or the successful. No, the source says they're society's outcasts, people in distress, people drowning in debt, and people who were just deeply discontented with life, the broken ones. And we're not talking about a small group here. The number is just, well, it's stunning. 400 of these marginalized, forgotten people make their way to a cave in the middle of nowhere to rally around a disgraced fugitive. This is the beginning of a very unlikely army and an even more unlikely community. All right, so while all that's happening in the cave, let's switch scenes. Let's head over to the palace, to the supposed light and order of the kingdom. This is where King Saul is, the man with all the power, all the armies, all the control. So Saul gets word that the priests in a town called Nob gave David some bread and a sword when he was on the run. Now, in his head, which is just completely consumed by paranoia at this point, this simple act of kindness looks like high treason. He doesn't see priests helping a desperate man. He sees a full-blown conspiracy against him. So he gives this absolutely shocking order, execute all the priests. But check out what happens next. His own elite guards, the men sworn to obey his every command, they flat out refuse. They will not do it. Now, when a king gives an order and his own soldiers say no, you know his authority is starting to crack. But Saul doesn't back down. He finds a guy who will do it, a foreign officer. And the result is just this horrific massacre. He doesn't just kill the 85 priests, he wipes out the entire town, men, women, and children, all of it fueled by the king's paranoid rage. Okay, so you see what's happening here, right? We've got these two completely different worlds playing out at the exact same time. In a cave, a powerless fugitive is building a community of outcasts, and in a palace, a powerful king is destroying his own kingdom out of fear. This contrast is the entire setup for our source's main point. And here it is, laid out side by side. You've got David in a cave with nothing. He's powerless, he's wounded, and because of that, his pain becomes a magnet for other people in pain. Then you have Saul. He's in a palace with all the power in the world, but he's totally isolated. His authority isn't a source of security, it's a weapon, and the only people who stick around are the ones ruthless enough to use it. So this all leads to the big question. The real heart of the whole story and the central idea of our source. What is going on here? Why does this happen? What is this strange power that a wound seems to have? I mean, really, stop and think about this for a second. It makes zero logical sense, right? One guy, the king, can offer you safety, power, a future. The other guy, the fugitive, offers, well, danger and a shared sense of misery. And yet, 400 people chose the cave. The answer gets at this really powerful psychological concept that explains David's bizarre charisma at this moment. And our source calls this the principle of the wounded healer. The big idea is this: David was no longer a perfect, untouchable hero on a pedestal. His failure, his humiliation, his wound, that's the very thing that made him trustworthy to the broken. They saw their own pain in him. They knew he wouldn't just pity them, he would actually understand them. See, perfection creates distance. Shared vulnerability, that creates a powerful connection. So, what does this all mean for us? I mean, it's a great story, but what's the point? Well, the source argues that this wounded healer idea isn't just about ancient kings and caves. It's this universal pattern for how we connect with each other. In leadership, in our families, in our friendships, really anywhere that empathy matters. The argument is that it's kind of a three-stage journey. First, we all go through hardship. We all experience pain. That's a given. But the second step is crucial. We have to find our own healing to process that pain. And when we do that, something amazing happens. Our experience is transformed. It stops being just a scar, and it becomes a source of wisdom, a unique ability to help other people who are walking that same path. And it boils down to this incredible idea. The parts of our stories that we are maybe most ashamed of, the moments of our deepest failure or pain, they don't have to be the end. According to this principle, those very things can be turned into sources of light, of empathy, of purpose. And that's really the final provocative thought this whole explainer leaves us with. It asks us to look at our own lives, our own scars, and to consider a pretty radical possibility. Could the things that have hurt you the most actually become your greatest assets? Could your wounds, in fact, become your stars?